Okay, so today we're going to continue our discussion on personal finance by talking about simple interest. So, what you need to know is that simple interest is the dollar amount that you get paid for lending money or that you have to pay if you borrow money from somebody. Okay, so there's two ways of you either pay interest or you can get interest. The amount of money that we deposit or borrow is called the principal. So you're paying interest on the amount of the principal. And the amount of interest will depend on the principal, the interest rate, which is given as a percent, and it varies from bank to bank, and the length of time for which the money is deposited. So that's going to give us to a formula that we're going to talk about in a minute. But as I said, what we're concentrating on today is simple interest, and that's what involves by just calculating interest only on the principal. Okay, so to calculate simple interest, you have a formula that is interest equals principal times rate times time, often I equals PRT. And the important thing that you have to remember that anytime we're dealing with a rate, even though the problem gives it to you as a percentage, you must always express it as a decimal in your calculations. If you don't, then you will have your numbers will be way off and you'll be getting a lot more money than you thought you would. Okay, example number one. Calculating simple interest, you deposit $200 into a savings account at Hometown Bank, which has a rate of 6%. Find the interest if the loan is for 2 years. So to start off with, we're going to use our simple interest formula, which says I equals PRT. So you're looking for the interest, so hopefully you can go back up in the problem and see that P is the amount of money, that's our principal, how much did we start with, and our rate is 6%, that as a decimal would be 0.06, and our T for time, always in terms of years, when you do an interest, is 2. So you'll see how we've plugged that in. Here's our P, there's our R, there's our T. So you calculate that and you get 240. So the answer to the problem is that interest is $240. Okay, our next example, calculating simple interest. A student took out a simple interest loan for $1,800 for 3 years at a rate of 8% to purchase a used car. Find the interest on the loan. So again, I equals PRT. So before I show you, see if you can figure out what's going to go in for principal and the rate and the time. And hopefully you wrote something down like this. Our principal is $1,800. The only number in the problem that has a dollar sign. Our rate, 8%, written as a decimal. And again, our time is in terms of years, 3 years. So when you multiply that, you'll get $432. So the interest on our loan is $432. Okay, last example, calculating the total value or debt. A loan of $10,060 has been made at 6.5% for 3 months. Find the loan's future value. So as I kept telling you, well, we'll go through and I'll show you. But the important thing to remember, 3 months, okay, as I told you, whenever you do interest problems, T always is in terms of years. So if they give you something in terms of months, you're going to have to figure out how many years that is or what fraction of a year. So we have our principal is 10,060. Our rate is 6.5%, which is a decimal, is 0.065. Now our time is 3 out of 12 months, so we convert that to a decimal, or you can leave it as 3 out of 12 if you want to. And that is the time. So when we put it into our formula, okay, and remember they're asking here what the total value is. So once you find interest, add it back to the principal. But our interest, PRT, there's our principal, there's our time, excuse me, there's our rate. Principal times rate times time gives us a total of $17.23. That is the interest. So the loan's future value I had to figure out by adding that interest back to the original loan. So the future value of the loan rounded to the nearest cent would be $1,077.23. Okay, so when you bring your paper up to me, I want you to write an 80 at the bottom and circle it because that's as far as you have to go when you do your IXL, which is 8th grade K10. You only have to go to 80 on that IXL topic. Okay, so bring me your paper, write an 80 at the bottom and circle it, or I'll ask you to listen to the video again. Thanks, and I'll come see me. You come see me if you have any questions.